RR4ECD's webinar today. It's very exciting that we are doing this work again. It's the IDP season. So around this time of the year, local governments are finalizing their integrated development planning processes. This is the document where local municipalities state what they're going to be focusing on in terms of the service delivery to the communities, and whatever is delivered within municipality, then it becomes difficult for municipalities to be able to provide for specific things. In our case, early childhood development. So if early childhood development is not planned for properly in that integrated development plan, ties-in ECD in their work going forward. So that's what brings us here today, talking about the integrated development plan, what it is, why is it important for early childhood development, and how as ECD advocates, ECD practitioners, we can get involved in influencing what is in that IDP. So I have prepared a presentation today that we will go through that will sort of flesh out all of these issues that I have briefly touched on. And yeah, thank you so much for everyone who is coming in. If you have not done so yet, please just say your name in the comments and which center you're from or which organization you're listening, you are representing here today, just so that we can gather that as our register for the day. Let's get the show on the road. I'm going to share my screen. And Kosi, if I miss any hands along the way, please just let me know. And yeah, we can get those hands in.
Okay.
Thank you. Are we sharing?
Yes, we are.
So yes, today we're going to be, this webinar is a part of Real Reform for ECD's campaign called Making Local Government Work for ECD. The Real Reform for ECD campaign is running a few campaigns where we recognize gaps within the ECD sector. And this is where we are specifically targeting local governments and empowering practitioners and supporting practitioners within local governments so that we can activate local government so that they can provide for early childhood development. So on the agenda today, we'll be having a brief introduction to Real Reform for ECD for those in the room who are unfamiliar with the movement. We'll be doing this through an introductory video. We will be talking about the campaign, Make Local Government Work for ECD. I will be giving a legislative context as to who's giving us the authority to go to local government. We have an idea that everything kind of lies at national. Since the migration, everything is in the hands of DBE, but that's not necessarily the case. ECD falls within multiple departments, within multiple spheres of government, and I will be given that legislative context as to why are we going to local government in terms of ECD, some of the ECD work. And then we'll be going into the integrated development plan itself, what it is, why is it important that we get ECD represented in that integrated development plan. If you leave here forgetting everything, the only thing that I would stress that you remember is this integrated development plan. And then we're going to workshop a submission template that was prepared by Real Reform for ECD. I'm gonna now go to the video. Can everyone see that?
Yes, we can see it. But I don't think we have sound.
Oh, yeah. Can you hear now?
No, we can't.
No.
Do you know how I can go about that, Kosi? And share the sound.
Hi.
Hi,
So
Bubilo.
you will have to get out of the presentation, stop sharing, and reshare. So before you project your screen on the reshare button, there's an option that says select audio. So you have to click on it.
So I say share screen and then select audio.
Yeah, so I get when you
Okay,
open the
Kaibo.
share screen. Yeah.
Okay, Kaibo. Is it there?
Yes, it is. Thanks, Bubilo.
We have existed in a place where children are just to be seen and not heard. And unfortunately, that has translated to our society and our legal framework and things that govern our society.
The Equality Collective, together with a number of organisations in 2020, was faced with a Children's Amendment Bill that was tabled in Parliament that was very poorly drafted. It didn't meet or respond to the needs of the sector. And so we responded quite powerfully and we decided to found the Real Reform for ECD campaign. And very quickly managed to garner quite a tremendous response to the bill. The sector was united and unanimous in saying that this bill doesn't meet our needs.
Our goal, it's clear, we are driven by 5 areas. One, it's about infrastructure, it's about registration, it's about funding, it's about health and safety standards for the ECD. This is what has been driving us. This is what has connected us from different organizations that we are serving in. But because we've got this one common goal of seeing, everybody who have a part to play, playing his or her role.
So now we want practitioners to take on the role of helping with implementation and helping with accountability.
There is nothing about us without us. So us as ECD practitioners, us as principals, we need to be involved. Our voice needs to be heard.
I would like local government to be a part of all ECD centres in their communities. If local can maybe help us with registration, it will be so much easier for us to get funding.
In most local government, based on our advocacy, there's a move in terms of recognizing and putting systems in place for the importance of understanding that an early childhood education program, it does not have to be a non-sender. Every program that creates access for the young child needs to be recognized, needs to be registered, needs to be acknowledged, because it brings about, the better life for the young child.
Ik heb besluit dat ik de ECD-center gaan open om kinders aan te vat, onder mijn zorg toe te laten. En wat voor mij de belangrijkste is, dat kinders hulle 6 ontwikkelingsareas moet ontdek. Ons neem kinders, ek het besluit ek gaan kinders aanneem om hulle skoolgereed te kry, om vir hulle 'n beter toekoms in te hou.
The people said they are new, they don't know nothing. I must pay 144,000. Where I can get 144,000?
It's high time that we have people who are advocates for children's rights and advocates for children thriving. to being in these rooms where law is being made. Thank you very much for the, thank you very much, colleagues. I'm going to go back to the presentation now. So as you learned in the video and in my brief introduction earlier, today we're talking on the campaign to make local government work for ECD. This campaign aims to ensure that local government creates safe and vibrant learning spaces for young children by prioritizing planning IDPs in the IDP and budgeting appropriately for ECD services and removing and addressing municipal barriers and registrations, and to registration rather. There are many barriers to registration that can be addressed at local government level. Local government is also responsible for health and safety checks for the ECD programs, and the process is overly onerous and exclusionary. Local government, as mandated by the national ECD policy, is also failing to build more and upgrade existing ECD programs. So what the Campaign for Rural Reform saw was that there are low-hanging fruits lying at local government, especially around registration, which is one of the biggest barriers we have in South Africa in terms of ECD centers. Many of our centers still remain unregistered, and this is in the domain of local government to address and simplify. And also with health and safety checks, that is also under local government. So this is an accessible space for ECD advocates, ECD practitioners to really get involved directly, hands-on, and assist and capacitate local government to see these responsibilities through. So Rural Reform for ECD is calling on everyone to raise their voice for young children in their communities and get ECD into local municipality IDPs. So why are we even going to local government? What gives us that authority? Luckily for us, the Constitution itself mandates local governments to have responsibility over early childhood development centers. Schedule 4 Part B of the Constitution gives local government the legislative authority to pass legislation and policies related to childcare facilities. What this means is that local government is authorized, it is allowed to make laws, they're allowed to make bylaws that relate to early childhood development within their own municipality. So we don't have to go and wait for national government to create laws that apply nationally, but local government themselves are authorized to do so. In addition, municipal planning, including the regulation of land use for childcare facilities, is a designated function and competency of local government. So local government here, according to the Constitution, is able to look, oh, we have land over here, and then be able to donate that land to early childhood development centers. Or for instance, abandoned buildings. Local municipalities are able to take abandoned buildings and donate them to ECD facilities. And this is, again, mandated in the Constitution. And then also in the National Integrated ECD Policy, it says that local municipalities must participate in the planning of early childhood development services. It says that they are responsible for supporting childcare facilities to meet minimum infrastructure, health, and safety standards. Here, our emphasized word is supporting. So not just saying, here is what people need to do to meet standards, but there has to be systems in place at local government that can support practitioners through this process. And then also, in terms of development of new infrastructure for ECD, also falling under local municipalities. Furthermore, as I said, municipalities can identify available infrastructure that may be used for the expansion of early learning services and program in those communities. So there we are setting the ground, the context onto as to why are we going to local government, right? The law is allowing for us to go to local government, or for local government to see through the provision and expansion of ECD services within their communities. And now we're going to look at what are the tools that are available, one of which being the integrated development plan. And the integrated development plan is an approach to planning which is aimed at involving the municipality and the community to find best solutions towards development. It is a plan for an area that gives the overall framework for development. Its aim is to coordinate the work of local and other spheres of government in a coherent plan to improve the quality of life for all people living in the area. So when you think about an IDP, simplest way to put it is think of it as a plan, sort of like a business plan or a plan that local government sets out as to what are we going to work on as local government. And then from that plan, the local municipality can then ask for budget that is reflecting of what they are intending to work on. So when municipalities are elected, as they were in 2021, they are in office for 5 years. That's the term of office, 5 years. So in that first year, the Municipal Systems Act mandates that local governments create an IDP, which will be the guiding document for the municipality for the next 5 years. So they plan, we are going to be working on A, B, C, D. These are our priorities for the next 5 years. And that then becomes sort of the guiding light for the municipality. And if what we are looking for, what we want the municipality to work on in terms of community development is not represented in that IDP, it means that there won't be a budget or plan to work on those specific things. Thus, if early childhood development is not in the IDP, then local municipalities continue to ignore the needs of the ECD sector. So that IDP takes into account the existing conditions, problems, and resources available for development. The IDP is an important tool for ECD or for service delivery in general, but specifically for ECD in terms because that once ECD is represented in that IDP, it means that it will help speed up delivery of services to the ECD sector. It will attract more funds, meaning that because funders are able to see that municipalities are taking early childhood development seriously and have planned for it, then municipalities are able to raise more money that will work towards helping early childhood development services. It helps with monitoring and accountability. Once municipalities have written in their IDPs what they're going to be doing. For instance, they might say, we're going to support 10 ECD centers with infrastructure in the next year. And then in the following year, we'll assist 20. Then the year after, we'll assist 30. As practitioners, as people in the sector, advocates in the sector, we are able to monitor that and then see the implementation of what has been planned for. And where it is not done, we are then able to hold local government accountable with something to point to and say, this is what was planned, this is what happened, explain the gaps. Currently, we are unable to do that in a lot of municipalities because nothing is planned for. And ECD stakeholders then have nothing to refer to in terms of what the municipality has planned to do. The IDP also strengthens democracy. How an IDP comes about is through community engagement. And South Africa has sort of a philosophy of the people shall govern. And where the people govern is really at local government, because it is here where people have direct access to local municipalities. So in spaces like community meetings, IDP community public participation meetings, that is in those spaces where democracy is strengthened because the voices of the community are influencing what is going on in the governance process. It also helps coordination between local, provincial, and national government. So we are not working in silos. Provincial government has a responsibility to play in early childhood development. National government has a responsibility to play in early childhood development. And local government has a role to play. So ECD being in the IDP, provincial and national governments are able then to see what is happening at local and also assist with monitoring and accountability. And where national treasury or provincial budgets have to be assigned to local governments, there is a clear channel for funding for early childhood development if it's represented in that IDP. Earlier, I spoke about how local municipalities create an IDP in the first year of office, which was in 2021. Those IDPs were finalized in 2022. However, the IDP is also reviewed on an annual basis because things that are prioritized in the first year of office might not be the priority at the fifth year of office, or there might be other priorities that come up along the way. So the legislation allows for the changes to be made on a yearly basis. So that is where we are now in terms of the IDPs in all municipalities in South Africa. We are reviewing the IDPs that were finalized in 2022. And it is in between January and April that this IDP review process is taking place. So how do we make IDP submissions? Community members have an important role to play in the annual review process of the IDP. This is really where our voices get to contribute to policymaking. They can provide valuable feedback on the performance of the municipality and raise any concerns or issues that they may have. Community members can make submissions during a stakeholder engagement session, which are usually called IDP public participation meetings or IDP road shows in some provinces. But a municipality will have meetings within communities. Usually it's with wards. Where wards are smaller, they will cluster together a few wards, and there will be a meeting where municipality members, municipality officials are present at that meeting. And then community members are also present in that meeting. That's where community members are given the opportunity to say to local government, these are our priorities. These are our challenges as a community. This is what we'd like to see happen in our community. And that is taken in by municipal officials and integrated into that IDP. So it is very, very important that we keep an ear on the ground in terms of knowing when these community meetings are happening. Because if ECD stakeholders are not in these meetings, the meetings will start and finish without anyone talking about early childhood development in a community development meeting. And that sort of doesn't make sense because when you're talking about development within communities, ECD has to be a standing agenda item. And as ECD stakeholders, we have to be the ones to ensure that early childhood development is a standing agenda item. Secondly, we can also make submissions through written submissions. So for many reasons, many people are unable to attend these meetings. We can also make written submissions. And that is also what we'll be talking about more today and going through that IDP template that colleagues can use in making their submission. This will be a write-up of what you would like to see happening, or what you would like to see represented rather in your local integrated development plan. This written submission can be typed, it also can be handwritten and delivered to your municipal office. You would ideally like to submit it to your IDP manager or the municipal manager, or ask any other municipal official where you can submit the IDP. In that written submission, ensure that your name and contact details are in that submission. Have a clear description of the issues or concerns you're wishing to raise. And also, more than just the challenges, also give suggestions and recommendations as to how you'd like to see those challenges addressed. And where relevant, please include supporting documents like pictures or reports. So for instance, if you own an ECD center and there's a refuse dump next to your ECD center that is not being collected, it would be valuable to take a picture of that and attach it to your IDP as you request for more regular refuse removal. Or if you have flowing sewage in the street, taking pictures of that and saying, this is next to my ECD, here's the visual evidence of it, and attach those to the IDP submission. So here was given just the context of how to make that IDP overall. And here as to finding out where to submit your IDP, a good place to start is finding out from your counselor. And this can be done by finding out who your counselor is. It is very, very important beyond the IDP work for us as ECD stakeholders to have a relationship or know our ward counselors, because our ward counselors are also the people that connect us to the ward council at municipal level. So to find out who your own counselor is, you can SMS this number, you can SMS your ID number rather to 32245. That's your ID number to 32245. This is a government line, and as a registered voter, everyone has their ID number registered to a certain geographic area. And that's where this data will be coming from. And then they will let you know who your ward counselor is. And then you can contact your counselor and ask, what is the best way for you to participate in the IDP process? As I said, every municipality has sort of nuanced differences as to how the IDP process goes. Each municipality, hopefully some of them, maybe most of them, on their website will have an IDP planning process as a separate document to the IDP itself, because the IDP planning process tells us how the IDP planning is going to go, meaning when are we going to have meetings, in which wards will we be having these meetings, on which dates, and when are we accepting submissions. There is no one date for all municipalities to have their IDPs in, but rather each municipality sets their own date as to the final deadline of the IDP submission. If your counselor is unresponsive, which the reality of South Africa is some of them are, so you can try the office of the mayor or the office of the speaker in your own municipality. And this just takes search or finding out from your community centers in your community, going to your community hall. Community libraries might have this kind of information. Finding out who your mayor is, the office of the mayor or the office of the speaker, and getting through them more information on how to participate in that IDP process. And what you want to participate in is those public meetings that you have to attend, and also finding out when is the deadline for written submissions. You can also join the IDP Representative Forum. So the Integrated Representative Forum is a body that is constituted at local municipality that is supposed to monitor the implementation of the IDP. And that is within the municipality, made up of different stakeholders who have an interest in seeing the implementation of the IDP. Lastly, you can also mobilize the ECD community and parents to attend IDP community participation meetings, and designate an ECD forum member to be a representative of the forum in these meetings. Once submissions have been made, what are the next steps? A draft IDP is then prepared by local municipality following community meetings and written submission. It is important that we go back and review that IDP and what it says, because at that point we would have made our submissions, and we would love it for us to be heard and know that our submissions have been received. So it's important that we go back and review the draft IDP to see what we have submitted, that what we have submitted is in that IDP. And if it's not, we make further submissions on the draft IDP before it gets to the final stage. In addition to seeing ECD in the IDP, we also have to advocate for our municipalities to have a multidisciplinary team in place that is knowledgeable on ECD and working to implement that IDP. So once the IDPs is in place, implementation is also a space for ECD stakeholders to be involved in terms of the IDP. And this multidisciplinary team at local government level is a space where we can ensure that people who are knowledgeable about ECD are the ones who are seeing through that implementation. This is a space for practitioners and ECD forums to really get involved in the life of seeing that implementation through. Repetitive here, but your ECD forum may also consider setting up a system to monitor the IDP process and require regular updates on ECD specific matters with local authorities. So as an ECD forum, we can ask that at every meeting or however so often, we have a representative from local municipality, from local government, perhaps inviting the IDP manager to come every so often to report back to the ECD forum within the community on the implementation of that IDP. This is why it's so important for ECD forums and ECD practitioners within communities to create relationships with local municipalities. And the forum creates a great platform where the municipality can come to you as practitioners and find you all together and address you there. As I said earlier, IDP season is between January and April of every year, reviewing between January and April, the process. And written submissions often accepted by the end of April, May. By end of May, we'll have most, if not all, written submissions closed. It is important that you find out when your IDP deadlines are and make those submissions in time. However, if you have missed your IDP submission date this year, we will have the opportunity to review again next year. So I want to now go into a sort of more practical part of the presentation, and that is the IDP template. But before we go into that, I saw it invaluable really to add an IDP that has represented ECD in it, so that colleagues today can see what an IDP can look like. Often we just show the template and we don't really know what an IDP can look like. So before you even make the submission or get the template and edit the template to reflect your needs, I would advise to get a copy of your own municipality's IDP currently as it stands. It will say your municipality's name, IDP 2022 to 2027. That is the IDP time that we are in now, the 2022 to 2027 IDP. It'd be vital for everyone to get a copy of their own municipality IDP and then find out what does it say currently about ECD? What commitments have been made in this current ECD time about ECD? And then identifying what are the gaps, what is still not being addressed in that IDP, and then making a submission. I will now go and show the Breeda Valley Local Municipality IDP. Kosi, confirm that we can see the screen, please.
You can see the screen.
Awesome sauce. Thank you so much. So Breeda Valley Local Municipality is a municipality that falls under the Cape Winelands District Municipality in the Western Cape. And we have been, Real Reform for ECD has been working with partners on the ground, Do More Foundation and Lima, in mobilizing practitioners and getting practitioners involved in local municipality work for the past 2 to 3 years. And a lot of momentum has been gained in that municipality. And a lot of that momentum is really owed to practitioners on the ground, really taking on the role of being active and taking advocacy for ECD outside of the ECD center, but also to local government and showing them that they can get involved. And this is the IDP that we currently have at Breda Valley. And I have sort of just key searched ECD to show colleagues here today what is in this IDP. And the first mention we have of ECD here falls under the category where the municipality analyzes what are the developmental challenges within the municipality. So they list 6 developmental challenges that they will be focusing on in terms of development in the municipality. Challenge number 4, they see as rural development. And their councillors' inputs here is identification of areas for ECDs and playgrounds. Secondly, we have another mention of ECD here, where it is proposed that they're proposing developmental sites where ECDs will be built. And the IDP identifies that they're going to be building approximately 16 ECDs. Another mention that we see is the identification of ECD needs per area. So here we see that they're talking about each where, in what area do they need assistance within that municipality. Also estimating the value, how much will be spent on there, and the years of implementation. What is lovely about an IDP is that where these things are not done, we have an official municipal document to go back to municipalities with and follow up and hold to account. Here we see where how many ECDs are in the area. You'd be surprised how many municipalities don't even know how many ECDs are in the municipality, how many are registered, how many are unregistered. It's close to impossible to assist with registration support if we do not know how many ECD centers are in the area. There's also mention of municipalities to create space to build more ECDs and to identify plots for ECD. So again, just show, and the last one here saying that there will be an annual ECD summit hosted within the municipality every year. So that communities can get together, engage, and centralize early childhood development as a key developmental area. And then here we have a table which shows projects around ECD. So within the municipality, they will say ECD is the program that we're looking at, and identifying those projects. And again, the timelines, and importantly, partners who is involved in the project that is in that IDP. More specific projects that are listed within the IDP as to what is the municipality going to help support. And then they go more specific as to the wards that needs direct support in terms of IDP. The IDP lists a lot of other things in terms of development, not just ECD. So it's important, if we are not making those submissions about ECD, it'll be about everything else but ECD. So here we see in Ward 8, there's a need in Ward 11 and Ward 16. These are people who have made submissions to the IDP themselves and said, municipalities, I am in Ward X, and this is our needs in Ward X. And then those are then represented in the IDP. Also, we see that organizations can make submissions to the IDP, or institutions can make submissions to the IDP. And here are our community partners that I mentioned earlier, that we Real Reform for ECD partners with in the municipality, Dumo Foundation and Lima Rural Development Foundation, who have made their submissions to the IDP that are represented in that. So we can see what potential there is really to have local government know and see the value of early childhood development and community development, and have that represented meaningfully in the IDP. That way, when municipalities are raising funds, when municipalities are asking national or provincial government for funding, they're able to go with a plan to say, this is what is on there, and in terms of ECD, and get that funding. I am now going to go into the template that Real Reform for ECD has prepared. The idea is really to just make this process as easy as possible for practitioners, for ECD stakeholders to be able to make submissions and get involved and be active participants in advocating for early childhood development at local government level. So I'm going to share this, and Kosi again, please just confirm once we have visual.
We have visual, Tipo.
Thank you. So we have created this template. This, for all those who have registered to the ID for this webinar, we will send out the template to you along with the presentation that gives context and further explains. But the template itself has an explanation on what an IDP is and what the purpose of it is. So this first page of the template just gives you an overview again of what an IDP is in more simplified terms than I did going in depth in the presentation. And this template, be reminded that is merely a guideline for practitioners and stakeholders to use. You can change it up completely or change it up just a little bit, or just look at it for understanding of what an IDP submission letter can look like, and write what reflects your own needs. Through the template, you'll see things that are highlighted in yellow, and that's where it is a requirement for edits to be made. So such as filling in your name, we'll just say name highlighted yellow. And then ECD practitioner stakeholders will go and make those particular edits so that we are able to personalize it to our own needs, our own name, our own wards, so that the recipient of the IDP template, the IDP submission rather, knows who is submitting this. And then here again, it goes into what to do to make the submission, and reminder that submissions are ending at the end of April. And there's that SMS line again to find out who your counselor is, and then reaching out to your counselor to get more information as to where submissions can be made. Ideally, again, we want to make these submissions to our IDP manager, municipal IDP manager, or your municipal manager. You can also go through the office of the speaker or the office of the mayor. But go there knowing that the municipal office is available to you. And now that you know what the IDP is, go in there confident in your own knowledge and in what you are standing for, and ask for what you need. When you do make your submissions, Real Reform for ECD would like to keep track of the submissions that are made. So please do BCC us into any submissions that you make in your local municipality. We're also doing this for our own monitoring purposes in terms of knowing how many submissions have been made, and coming in to support any ECD forums that wants to do work further, and finding out feedback in terms of what is submitted. So please do include us in the IDP submissions that you make. I'm coordinating the campaign, and the emails can come to me directly at tepo@equalitycollective.org.za. So here's the exciting template we've been going on about all afternoon rather. And it's pretty plain right now, and you are welcome to add your own organization or ECD center's letterhead to this submission. So to personalize it to your own voice, to your own style. And here are the yellow highlights that I spoke about earlier. And also in the presentation, speaking about the important information that needs to be included. The name of the municipality, the name of the person making the submission, the name of your organization, and your ward number. So here you can address it to the IDP manager or whoever you are addressing it to. The body of the IDP template also just gives context to ECD as a whole. You know, we we take it for granted sometimes. I've seen it with myself working with local government officials, that everyone knows why ECD is important. But to my surprise, a lot of people are still thinking it's just a creche where kids go sleep and play in the sand and nothing much is to it. And more often than not, this context of what ECD is and why it's important is needed when engaging with local governments. So here we go on. I won't have to go into this because I'll be preaching to the converted, but it explains why early childhood development is important, specifically important for development. And that's what local municipalities are there for, developing our communities. And we can't talk about development in any sense within our community without talking about early childhood development.
So sorry, Tipo.
Yeah, Bo.
Can we make the presentation bigger or full screen so people can see more clearly?
How's that?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for that, Kosi. So yes, we just given the context there of the IDP. And then here is the body of the submission. Reminder, colleagues, that you're welcome to make changes, to personalize it, to be specific to your own center's needs, where you would like to be assisted by the municipality, where municipality has power to assist. And yeah, so here we start off with pulling down barriers to registration. And these are also quite general because they're speaking to the municipality as a whole, but here asking for the providing of a fee waiver or reduced fees for municipal processes for all programs, to support ECD practitioners through the registration journey and ensuring that ECD practitioners are aware of conditional registration, which is available to them. This is one that is overlooked by a lot of municipalities where practitioners remain unregistered, but they could be meeting that bronze registration level or silver registration level. But the idea that, or the knowledge that's on the ground, is that we have to be fully compliant to register and get a subsidy. So municipality can push for awareness, knowledge awareness, build knowledge sharing on these conditional registration as to what do you need at the bare minimum to get that bronze registration certificate. And already at bronze, you are able to access funding. Another point he made here is to have in-house architects to be used by ECD practitioners at the expense of the municipalities. A part of some of the biggest expenses to ECD registration is floor plans and building plans. So municipalities having an in-house could help a great deal in speeding up that process. And implementing rapid procedures to address delays in the present registration process and ensure feedback loops are closed. You know, so many things would move so much faster if feedback came to practitioners as quickly as possible. But in most cases, we find that practitioners are the ones going back to municipalities and asking, how far along is my registration process? And then local officials have to flip through files and files to find something. So really addressing these procedural issues at local government is such a low-hanging fruit in terms of supporting ECD services. Our second bunch of inputs is with regards to building more spaces for ECDs and upgrading existing ones. The IDP should include clear targets and allocate appropriate funding for new buildings and upgrading for ECD programs. As we saw as we were going through the Breeda Valley Local Municipality, IDP, they do set annual targets and allocate funding for those. And this is something that every municipality can do in terms of allocating new fundings and allocating new buildings, upgrading old ones. The provision of basic services such as electricity and water and sanitation to ECD providers should be free of charge or significantly reduced rates. And then the urgent identification on underutilized infrastructure as venues for ECD programs and relevant departments to prepare a report to council and board for the inclusion of ECD as a priority consideration for any lease within the municipality. So the municipality is able to also lease out buildings within their area. And this is requesting that they prioritize ECD. So if there's a vacant building, imagine in the city of Johannesburg, where we have so many vacant buildings, so many hijacked buildings, if we're able to really convince municipalities to prioritize ECD, practitioners can be put in these spaces and these buildings be donated to ECD centers. The third bunch of submissions are to do with local spending, making ECD a local government, a priority for spending, to support ECD programs by ensuring that where there are no delays with access to subsidies, to ensuring that there are no delays to accessing subsidies, the municipality is authorized to intervene and represent practitioners at provincial and national level. So practitioners can't just be sitting and not having funding and then be expected to go fight this fight hands-on at provincial or national government with local government sitting on the sidelines. But for local governments can and should be supporting practitioners in accessing subsidies. They're not just saying, no, it's not with us, it's with provincial. But how are you as local government supporting practitioners to access funding at provincial and national level? And lastly, in this section, local government to include in the IDP a budget to support ECD registration and the maintenance and development of ECD structure. So here, a budget to support ECD registration, speaking to helping practitioners through that registration journey, sort of as close to holding their hands through it to say, okay, here's the next step. Here is a supportive structure, supportive tools to go through that next step. How do we get approved in terms of environmental health? What are the supportive structures? And also in terms of ECD infrastructure. And then lastly, we speak on ensuring ongoing support with for the ECD sector. So it is not enough that ECD is just represented in the IDP and that's that, but there has to be bodies established to see the implementation of this IDP through. So establish a multidisciplinary ECD task team, which is made up of ECD stakeholders in the municipalities. This can include the Department of Education, Department of the health department, IDP managers, and ECD forums and other relevant stakeholders within the ECD sector. These are the people who will be overseeing that implementation, monitoring and evaluating the implementation of the IDP as it relates to early childhood development and other municipal interventions aimed at improving the expanding access to early childhood development services. So, and then the last paragraph just says that this is a part of a broader campaign calling for real reform for the ECD sector. Our objective as the real reform for ECD movement is to ensure an enabling legal, policy, and regulatory framework or environment for ECD that can see all children thrive. For more info on real reform for ECD or to join the movement, you can go to www.ecdreform.org.za. That is the Real Reform for ECD website, and you will find out more about Make Local Government Work for ECD campaign and other campaigns that we are working on, such as the Second Children's Amendment Bill. Colleagues, that brings me to the end of my presentation. I will open for question and answer session.
Tsepo,
Yeah, bro.
we had a question about whether real reform will make the recording available for the meeting.
Yes, we will.
Okay. And there's a hand from Pam.
Sure.
Congratulations.
I don't know, Kosi, oh, sorry. Kosi, I don't know, do you want to trade question for question or it's just one hand for now? I'm happy with
Yeah, I'm just seeing Pam's hands for now.
Mine is just a comment to say, well done again, Sepo. You do real reform for ECD proud. Really, I urge every organisation on this call that is not a member of Real Reform to please join. There are some fantastic campaigns in the offing. We are about to launch a Right to Nutrition campaign around children's rights to have good, nutritious food to eat. So watch this space. And then on the local government side, huge strides have been made in Worcester and in Kumasi and in some of the Joburg wards. And it is a real attempt to help practitioners in the ECD sector have a strong voice and the tools to make ECD happen at community level. And I love this idea of a municipal ECD task team to monitor and to hold municipalities to account in terms of inclusion of ECD in the IDP and in their budget spending. So let's make this happen in every municipality where participants are working. Thanks, Sepo.
Thank you so much, Auntie Pam. And yeah, I just want to reiterate that there's amazing work being done. We are seeing wins on the ground, and it's practitioners who have really become involved in the advocacy work. Us as Real Reform provide tools, we provide resources, we provide models that practitioners can really take ownership of and push this work forward within their local municipalities. And the ethos of Real Reform for ECD is really to be driven by people on the ground, ECD practitioners. And we do have an exciting new campaign coming up soon on the right to nutrition, trying to get basic nutrition support to ECD centers beyond just the subsidy, but making it quality and holistic access to nutritious food. And even in that campaign, we're going to need practitioners to get involved, to share their stories about how early nutrition is affecting them at their centers, or the lack thereof is affecting them and the children that they are helping develop. And once we start advocating at national level in terms of getting National Treasury and the Department of Basic Education to see this project through, we're going to need practitioners on the ground to be mobilized to get this work going. So we're not just ending here as Real Reform, but we are a movement that is a coalition of multiple organizations. There are 10 organizations on the steering committee. So we're not in one organization, but 10 organizations that form the steering committee. We all come together to identify gaps within the work that we are doing in local government, but also in consultation with the real reformers who these are the ECD practitioners who have joined the movement. We call them the real reformers. And that's where we get our mandate from, to see, here are the identified gaps on the ground. How do we campaign and mobilize around these things? That's just briefly on what we're doing. And the work, there's a lot of work to be done, but so many wins already that are showing us that once we are working as a collective, once we are all working together and not pulling from different directions, we are able to see significant change. Thank you.
Okay, Tsepo, the next round is we have a hand from Siwe and followed by Angelina in that order.
Okay, hello everyone. Am I audible?
Yes, you are, Buye.
Okay, thank you very much. I just have a question because I had a problem with load shedding and network. So I attended the session later, very late, maybe 30 minutes or 45 minutes late. So I would like just to send a request that as soon as the recording or the session of this meeting is available on the website, please do make us aware, because I was not part of the meeting. I just don't have much information. Thank you.
Okay, Bricio, we'll do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Angela, was it?
Hi, Chairpo, and hi, everyone. Just a quick question. Would it be, when you were talking about a collective would it be better for us to do a submission? We have got over 123 ECD sites underneath us. Would it be better for them to individually do submissions? Can we do a group submission? Because you talk about specific wards, and how do we represent that on our written submission?
Yes, that's a great question. And that was also a learning part for Rural Reform for ECD when we started making submissions. So you can do either or. However, what makes it sort of difficult with one submission representing all is that we are not specific about which ward, so the requests then become more general, which is not a problem if what we're looking for is general. But what I would request is to get practitioners to make submissions for themselves, especially with such a large network. It means that not all, I would imagine not all of them might be in the same municipality, or if not in the same, if they are in the same municipality, they're in different wards, and different wards might have different needs, might require different things. So what I would advise is to have practitioners make their own individual submissions to the municipality. Rural Reform, when we started this campaign in 2021, we also made one submission to municipalities, and where those submissions are made, we are seeing very little inclusion of ECD, because there's just a recognition of ECD being important to development, but nothing was asked specifically as to, we need infrastructure in this community, we need cleaning up services in that community. So if all of those nuances become missed when it's generalized. Whereas this year we are advocating for practitioners to make individualized submissions, also leveraging the strength of numbers, where if one municipality, even let's say a smaller municipality, receives 15 submissions to the IDP, all of them on ECD, there's room for more change there, rather than just receiving one signed by everyone. So I think just leveraging the strength of numbers in this one is the direction we want to go in.
Okay.
And in addition to that, I also in addition to that, it's also putting the power in practitioners' hands to voice their needs or challenges to local government. So it's not just to looking to this, but really raising that confidence and empowering practitioners to have their voice heard at local government too.
Lovely. Chepa, can I step in another question here quickly?
Sure.
Some of the municipalities send out an application for grant in aid. Is that similar to kind of getting the whoever onto the IDP plan, or is that completely separate?
Please repeat. I didn't hear the grant in.
Grant in aid. Some municipalities send out grant in aid applications to NPOs in specific municipalities. I just want to know if I'm wondering if that is somehow linked to the IDP.
It's not, I'm not quite familiar with the specific grant in aid that you're referring to. Auntie Pam, I see your hand is up, and perhaps you have a direct answer to this. However, in terms of the IDP itself, it's seldom that the IDP refers to budgeting of the municipality. There would be, in most municipalities, a different budget, a different sort of system or process in terms of creating the budget. And that budget is then drawn from what is in the IDP. So as you go to your municipality website, you might find the IDP planning process, and then also find the municipal budgeting process. And the budgeting process usually follows then once we have found out what the priorities are.
Okay, thanks so much, Chepo.
Thank you, Angela.
Can I add to that, Tsepo?
Please do.
The grants in aid, my understanding is that they're rather piffling amounts of money that are sort of handouts to people who apply for small things, training or maybe small infrastructure. We're talking about something way more substantial here. We want ECD to be taken seriously in municipalities, to form a major part of their IDPs and their budgets, and for proper funding to be put towards improving the infrastructure and the provision of ECD services for young children and communities.
Thank you.
And there's a comment on the chat from Wipilo who says she thinks it is, and one could advocate to have the funding criteria changed.
Okay, noted. And Wipilo, feel free to engage on that with with your local municipality too, in terms of finding out how you can get involved in budgeting processes and all those planning processes.
Okay, Tipo, I don't see any hands and the chat is clean. We still open for questions, and any last round, any last hands from anyone while we're still here?
It means we were clear and everyone gets it.
Yes.
I'm excited. I think it's just always so it fulfills me. I'm filled with gratitude when we are able to share such spaces and really engage with practical ways we can bring about change in the ECD sector. And we are in that time now where, it's important for us to find those practical things to do and really be involved, be active, be participants in creating that change and not just lip service. So much work has been done for so many years to bring us where we are today. People have been in the sector, fighting for the sector for so long. And we want to carry on that work. And now with the DBE being on board and taking over the function, it's also a new opportunity with fresh minds at national level that we can be involved with and engage with. So it's exciting, and I'm looking forward to engaging with as many people as possible, as many practitioners as possible. And if you need any further questions answered, clarity, or you have an ECD forum that you are part of that you would like to be supported in local government work, please do contact me or go to Real Reform the Real Reform website and join the movement there. Once you join the movement, you'll also receive newsletters, information about the ECD sector as a whole, and information about specific campaigns. Thank you very much, colleagues.
We have two hands that we encourage, Auntie Pam and then Nomcebo.
Okay.
Just to add to what Sepo was saying, the real power in early childhood development sits in communities, in the hands of practitioners and those people working with or for young children. Let's use this to become a powerful movement for young children and drive that demand for quality ECD services of all kinds from the ground. And the ECD practitioners and the forums are those that we need to enable and strengthen to take this forward.
Thank you.
Hi everyone. Sorry, I've been in and out because we had load shedding and I may have missed. Oh man, yeah. So the internet has been giving me problems. I just have one question. You might have covered it. I was going through our municipality IDP for the year 2023-2024, and I saw that they've already uploaded a final. Well, this is what it says on the website. It says final IDP process plan. It says plan. And I heard you mention that the finalization is usually or submissions accepted towards the end of April, but this was done in September of 2022. So now I just have like some sort of confusion as to when, once I've completed, well, once we as the organization have completed our suggestions and we want to submit it, I'm just wondering if they'll still accept it. If you're saying it's usually accepted until the end of April. So that's just giving me a bit of a, that confusion. Yeah. So if you can just help with clearing that part for me, please. Thank you.
Okay, Nomngabo, that's a great clarity-seeking question. So it will say final IDP because the IDP for the 5-year term of office was finalized in 2022. And it will say around August, September, October, because in the first half of the year, that's when we did consultations. They had public participation meetings. They had final submissions, written submissions, which would have ended in the second quarter of 2022. And then in the second quarter of 2022, we would have engaged with the IDP draft process, which then goes through its processes and is then finalized. And in the second half, third, fourth quarter, we have the finalized IDP, and it will be finalized for the 5 years of office. But where we are now is the review process. So each year then that IDP is reviewed. So what you're seeing is the IDP that is finalized, that document is now being reviewed in this time to see if there have been any changes since the start of the previous process. So every year there will be this review process on the previous IDP.
Got you. Thank you.
Okay, cool. I think you got it, but to get maybe specific on that municipality itself, because you answered the question that you asked was so clear that I get that you understand the whole IDP thing. And if you were to pose that question to your IDP manager, they can also give you clarity with specific deadlines with that question as it was. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think we all good, Paul.
Yes, we are. You can close us off, Kosi. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. And we hope that you found the session to be very informative. And we look forward to seeing you in many more of our engagements. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Kosi.
Thanks,
Bye.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.